I'm 29 years old, and I have a beautiful 9-year-old daughter named Ella. Ella's my whole world. She's the reason I keep going, the light in my life. But our family story isn't the happy, perfect kind you see in movies. When Ella was just a baby, about 18 months old, my whole life changed. I found out my ex-husband, who was supposed to be my partner and the father of my child, had cheated on me. Not only that, but he had fathered another child with another woman. I was devastated. That was the moment I knew I couldn't stay with him anymore. I ended the marriage and made the hardest decision of my life to raise Ella on my own, or at least share custody with my ex. My ex married the mother of his second child, a little girl named Callie. She's 8 now, just a year younger than Ella. Since then, I kept my distance from Callie and her mom. It felt too complicated, and honestly, I didn't want to be around the reminder of what my ex had done. At first, Ella and I never brought up Callie or wanted her involved in our lives. Ella didn't ask to meet or have her over. And I wasn't about to force something that didn't feel right. But that changed when my ex's parents, his mom and dad, started pressuring me. They kept telling me I should invite Callie to Ella's birthday parties and make sure the girls built a relationship. They said I was being a bad mother for not putting Ella's needs first. That really got to me. They painted me as selfish for not wanting to include the other child. I tried to ignore their comments, but it wore me down. I wanted to do the right thing. After all, Ella does have a half-sister. But I wasn't sure if Callie's mom and I could ever have a good relationship, and Ella never asked for her. Then came the emergencies. Sometimes I needed a babysitter last minute when I had to be somewhere, and I was running out of options. Out of pressure and kindness, I agreed to have Callie over a couple of times, but I regretted it. Those visits were stressful. Callie stayed longer than we agreed on. When I called my ex to ask about it, he wasn't answering. I was worried, but his parents wouldn't help pick her up. Eventually, he showed up, but we argued, him upset that I called him many times, me upset that he didn't warn me Callie would be late getting picked up. After the second time, I swore I wouldn't let Callie stay over again. I told my ex's parents exactly how I felt when they kept bringing up the birthday party invitations. I told them to back off. It wasn't easy, but I had to stand my ground. Living in a small town makes it even harder because you can't avoid seeing these people everywhere. But I mostly ignored them and their comments. After I firmly told my ex's parents to stop pushing me about Callie, I thought maybe things would calm down. But they didn't. Life has a way of throwing more challenges at you when you least expect it. A few months after those last visits, I started hearing things, little bits and pieces from people around town and from my ex's parents. I found out that Callie was being neglected. Not just a little, but seriously. It hit me hard. I learned that many days, no one would pick Callie up from school until very late. I saw her once, standing outside the school at 5:30 p.m. I couldn't believe it. How could a child be left waiting alone for so long, when she's just 8 years old? It didn't seem right. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what. It felt like I was stuck between wanting to protect Callie, who's just a kid caught in a messy family situation, and protecting my own daughter Ella. My ex's parents mentioned Callie's situation a few times, but when I told them they should step up and help, they just shrugged it off and kept blaming me for not including Callie more. It was frustrating and exhausting. Then my ex started texting me more often, asking if I could pick up Callie from school or babysit her until someone could come get her. At first, I was confused. Why was he asking me for help with Callie now? Shouldn't he be responsible? He even admitted in one text that sometimes he left Callie on the street alone. That was a red flag that made my heart sink. How could he just leave a child like that? I called Child Protective Services a couple of times because of what I was hearing and seeing. I told them about Callie being left alone, about the lack of food, about the neglect. But nothing happened. No visits. No check-ins. No warnings or action taken against my ex or his wife. It was like the system wasn't listening. Meanwhile, Ella's situation was very different. She takes the bus to school, and my ex works from home on his parenting weeks. She always has food, a safe place, and basic needs met. Ella hates being at her dad's house. She says she wants to live with me full-time. Her relationship with him isn't great, and I can't blame her. I've been documenting everything, missed pickups, late arrivals, text messages, phone calls, because I want to try to get full custody of Ella one day. But with CPS not doing anything about Callie's neglect, and Ella not being neglected, I know my chances are slim. It's heartbreaking because I want to protect both girls, but I'm stuck. I feel like I'm carrying a heavy weight, wanting to help Callie but being unable to. And feeling pressure from my ex and his parents to step up and include her more. But there's something else, something harder to admit. I don't want Callie around my house. I don't want to be responsible for the child of the woman my ex cheated with. Even though I know Callie didn't ask to be born into this mess, it's hard to separate those feelings. Ella and Callie aren't close. Ella prefers just the two of us, me and her. She never asked for Callie to come over, and honestly, I don't want to make her uncomfortable. I've pushed down these feelings when Callie has stayed over, but knowing that Ella feels the same way makes it even harder. I don't want to provide for the child of my ex's affair. It sounds harsh, I know, but it's the truth. And now, with all the pressure from his parents and my ex, I'm getting backlash, people calling me the bad guy for not doing more for Callie. I'm confused. I'm stuck. I want to be a good person. I want to help a child in need. But I also have to protect my daughter and myself. I don't know what the right answer is anymore. The whole situation with Callie and my ex's family started to feel like it was spinning out of control. I was caught in the middle of a family drama I never wanted to be part of, but there was no way out. My ex kept texting me more and more, asking if I could pick Callie up from school, watch her for a few hours, or help out because no one else would. I understood that things were hard for them, but it wasn't my responsibility. I already had my hands full with Ella, making sure she was safe and happy. Every time I said no, his parents would jump in. They'd call or message me, guilt-tripping me about not helping Callie enough. They'd say things like, "You're Ella's mother. This is your family too, or you need to step up for both girls." It was exhausting and frustrating. They didn't understand that this wasn't about being selfish. It was about boundaries and protecting my daughter from people who had hurt us. My ex's parents didn't see the bigger picture, how neglectful their son and his wife were being toward Callie, how stressful it was for me to get pulled into their mess, or how much Ella hated being around Callie. It felt like they were blaming me for something I couldn't control. I tried explaining to them that I wanted what was best for Ella and that meant not forcing a relationship with Callie if it wasn't natural or healthy. But they wouldn't listen. Sometimes, I wished I could just disappear from the whole thing. The calls, the texts, the pressure, the judgment. And then there was Ella. Ella hated going to her dad's house. She told me over and over that she wanted to live with me full-time. She didn't like how her dad treated her and felt uncomfortable around Callie. It broke my heart hearing her say that. She's just a kid, but she already had to deal with so much. The breakup, the split homes, the new family her dad created. I wanted to protect her from all the drama, but I couldn't. One day, after a particularly rough visit where Callie stayed over longer than planned again, I sat down with Ella and asked her how she really felt. She looked at me with big, sad eyes and said, "Mom, I don't want Callie here. I don't want her to be part of our family. It's not that I don't like her, but I don't want to have to share you." I understood completely. It wasn't about Callie. It was about Ella's feelings, about wanting her mom all to herself and not having to compete with the past mistakes of her dad. That conversation made me even more certain I couldn't keep letting Callie come over. But I was still worried about Callie. She's just a kid, after all. I kept wondering if there was something more I could do. One night, I stayed up late, thinking about everything, the neglect, the arguments, the pressure, and how alone I felt in all this. I thought about calling CPS again or trying to get legal help to protect Callie. But I knew from experience it wouldn't change much unless there was clear evidence and unless Ella was at risk. I started documenting everything in more detail. Dates, times, texts, pictures of Callie waiting at school, anything that might help if I ever needed to prove neglect. Still, I kept my promise to myself and to Ella. No more Callie visits at our house. It wasn't easy to say no. It meant disappointing my ex and his family. It meant dealing with angry texts and family drama. But I had to stand my ground. I didn't want to be the bad guy, but I had to be a good mom to Ella first. One day, my ex blew up at me in a text. He accused me of being cold and heartless, of not caring about Callie, and of trying to punish him through her. I wanted to reply with everything I felt, the neglect, the pressure, the way Ella felt, how hard this was for me, but I held back. Sometimes silence is the only answer you can give when things get too heated. I told myself I would focus on what I could control, protecting Ella and making sure she felt safe and loved. The rest, I just had to let go. But deep down, I kept asking myself, am I really the bad person here? Or am I just trying to do the best I can for my daughter, even if that means saying no to a situation I never wanted to be part of? After months of dealing with the constant pressure from my ex and his family, things were finally reaching a boiling point. Every day felt like walking on a tightrope, trying to keep the peace while standing firm on my decision to protect Ella and myself. I kept thinking about how much my life had changed since I found out about the affair and Callie. Nothing was the same. I had worked hard to build a safe, stable home for Ella, a place where she felt loved and cared for. And yet, the constant demands to include Callie in that life made me feel like my efforts were being ignored or dismissed. I wasn't just refusing because of the past betrayal, although I won't lie, that hurt was still fresh. It was more than that. It was about keeping my daughter safe emotionally and physically. One afternoon, I was at Ella's school waiting for her to finish when I saw Callie sitting alone on a bench outside. It was almost 6 p.m. The sun was setting, and I could see how tired and sad she looked. I felt a wave of pity for her. She was just a kid, caught in a situation that was way bigger than her. But I also felt a strong pull to keep my boundaries. Letting her come over hadn't helped her. It hadn't helped Ella. And it hadn't helped me. That moment made me realize something important. I could care about Callie's well-being without being responsible for it. I could wish her well but still say no to her being in my home. When I finally picked Ella up that day, I told her what I saw. I saw Callie waiting at school again, I said quietly. Ella nodded, not surprised. It's not fair to her. But I still don't want her here, Mom. I hugged her tight and whispered, I know, sweetheart. And that's okay. But just because I was standing firm, it didn't mean the drama stopped. My ex's family kept pushing. At one point, his mom showed up uninvited at my door, demanding to talk to me about Callie. I didn't open the door. Later, I found a long message from her on my phone, full of blame and accusations. It was clear they weren't going to let this go. That's when I realized I needed to protect not just Ella but myself too. I talked to a lawyer about what I could do to protect Ella's interests and make sure my boundaries were respected. The lawyer explained custody laws and how I could present evidence if I wanted to try for full custody. The thought of going through a custody battle terrified me. But I also knew that staying silent wouldn't help. I started putting together everything I had, the texts, photos, notes about neglect, just in case. At the same time, I kept reminding myself that Ella's happiness mattered most. She was the reason I kept fighting through all the stress and family drama. One evening, after Ella was asleep, I sat down and wrote a message to my ex. I kept it calm and clear. I told him I wasn't willing to have Callie come to my house anymore, that I was doing this for Ella's well-being, and that I hoped he understood. I didn't expect a kind response. Instead, I got an angry reply, accusing me of being selfish and trying to punish him by excluding Callie. I took a deep breath, closed my phone, and tried to focus on the good things. Like the way Ella smiled when she was with me, the small moments of peace, and the hope that someday this mess would settle. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, and maybe some people would never understand why I was doing what I was doing. But for now, I had to believe I was making the right choice. For Ella and me. Because sometimes, protecting your child means standing alone, even when it hurts. The weeks after my message to my ex were some of the hardest I've ever faced. His angry words stung, but I didn't let them break me. I knew deep down that standing my ground was the right thing to do, even if it made me the bad guy in their eyes. Every day, I focused on Ella. She was my light in the darkness. Even when the pressure from my ex and his family didn't stop, and sometimes even got worse, I reminded myself that I was doing this for her. I made sure our home was a safe, happy place. We spent more time together doing things she loved, drawing, reading, and playing in the park. Those moments kept me going. Ella's feelings were my priority. She told me once that she felt lucky to have me as her mom because I always listened to her and cared about what she wanted. That meant more than anything. At the same time, I was still worried about Callie. I didn't want to see a child suffer, no matter the complicated family history. But I also knew I couldn't fix her situation. That wasn't my job. I hoped that someday someone else would step up to help her, but it wasn't going to be me at the cost of my daughter's peace. One day, I got a call from the school counselor. They wanted to talk about Callie's attendance and the fact that she was often left waiting late after school. The counselor sounded concerned but didn't pressure me. It made me feel a little less alone knowing someone else was aware of the situation. Maybe, I thought, things would change someday. But that day also reminded me how fragile everything was. Because while I could protect Ella at my house, I couldn't protect Callie from what she faced every day with her own parents. That reality hit me hard. I cried one night, feeling overwhelmed by all the things I couldn't control. But then I remembered something important. I didn't have to carry the weight of the whole world on my shoulders. I had to focus on what I could do. That was taking care of Ella and being the mom she needed. And that meant keeping Callie out of our home, no matter how much pressure I felt from my ex and his family. After all, boundaries are a form of self-care, and for me, they were also an act of love for my daughter. I kept documenting everything, the calls, the texts, the times Callie was left waiting, just in case I ever needed it for court. Because I knew that if things didn't improve, I might have to fight for full custody of Ella. The thought scared me, but it also gave me strength. One afternoon, Ella and I were sitting on the couch, watching her favorite show, when she suddenly said, "Mom, thank you for standing up for me." I looked at her and smiled. "Always, sweetheart. I'll always protect you." Those words reminded me why I was doing all this. No matter how hard it got. No matter how many people judged me. I wasn't perfect, and this situation wasn't easy. But I was trying my best, for Ella, and for me. And maybe someday, things would be better. Maybe Callie would find someone who could really help her. But for now, I had to be strong. Because in the end, that's what being a mom is all about. After months of tension, I realized that just standing firm wasn't enough. The pressure from my ex and his family wasn't going to stop. And Callie's situation wasn't getting any better. I had to do something more. I started seriously thinking about going to court to ask for full custody of Ella. I wanted to make sure she was safe and happy, no matter what was happening with my ex. It wasn't an easy decision. I didn't want to drag my daughter into more conflict. But I knew that protecting her sometimes meant fighting hard. I reached out to a family lawyer who specialized in custody cases. Talking to her was both scary and a relief. She explained the process clearly and told me what evidence I would need. I gave her everything I had, the messages, the notes, the photos, even the records of me calling CPS. The lawyer said those would help show that I was the parent who provided a stable, safe environment. She also said that even though Ella's dad wasn't neglecting Ella, the ongoing conflict and the instability with Callie could affect Ella emotionally. That was something I hadn't thought about before. My lawyer encouraged me to focus on Ella's best interest and to keep documenting everything. She said it would also help if I could get Ella's feelings written down by a counselor or therapist. That was hard for me to hear, but I understood why it mattered. I wanted to protect Ella's heart as much as her body. I asked Ella if she would like to talk to a counselor, just someone to listen and help her understand her feelings. At first, she was nervous, but after a few sessions, she opened up more than I expected. She told the counselor how confusing it was to have a half-sister she barely knew, and how much she wished her parents would stop fighting. It broke my heart to hear that. But it also gave me hope that we could heal, even if it took time. Meanwhile, I kept saying no to Callie coming over. It wasn't easy. My ex texted me often, begging me to help out, telling me he was overwhelmed. His parents called me again, this time more polite but still pushing hard. I tried to explain that I was not Callie's parent and that her well-being wasn't my responsibility. I reminded them that I had to put Ella first. It felt like I was repeating myself over and over, but I didn't give in. One day, I had a long talk with my own family. They listened and supported me. Their encouragement gave me strength when I felt weak. I also talked to some friends who had gone through custody battles. Their advice was helpful and comforting. They told me to focus on what I could control and to stay calm even when things got tough. That was easier said than done, but I tried. I still kept hoping my ex and his wife would step up and take better care of Callie. But deep down, I knew that hope might not come true anytime soon. So I focused on my fight for Ella. The court process was slow and frustrating. We had to wait for hearings, fill out paperwork, and go through mediation sessions. Sometimes, I felt like giving up. But every time I thought about Ella's smile, I pushed forward. During mediation, my ex admitted that things were hard for him and his wife, but he said he was trying. He asked if we could find a way to share responsibility for Callie. I told the mediator honestly that I wasn't able to care for Callie without hurting Ella's feelings and peace. It was painful to say, but it was the truth. The mediator understood and suggested we focus on Ella's custody first and try to find other ways to support Callie. In the end, The judge granted me primary custody of Ella, with my ex having visitation rights. It wasn't everything I wanted, but it was a start. I felt relief and sadness at the same time. I wanted Ella to have a relationship with her dad, but I also wanted her to be safe and happy. After the court decision, I tried to build a routine that gave Ella stability. I made sure she felt loved and heard every day. And while I still worried about Callie, I realized that sometimes, the best thing I could do was to set boundaries and hope others would help her. Looking back, I know I did my best. I stood up for my daughter. I fought for her well-being. And even though the journey was painful and lonely at times, I learned how strong a mother's love can be. This story isn't over. There are still challenges ahead. But for now, I have hope. Hope that Ella will grow up feeling safe and loved. And hope that one day, maybe Callie will find her own path to happiness too. After the court decision, life slowly began to settle into a new rhythm. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it felt like a step in the right direction. Ella and I spent more time just being us. I focused on creating a home where she felt safe, loved, and free to be a kid without worrying about adult problems. She still struggled sometimes with her feelings about her dad and her half-sister Callie, but with counseling and open talks, we worked through those emotions together. One day, Ella said to me, "Mom, I'm happy here with you. I feel safe." That moment filled me with a kind of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. It reminded me why I fought so hard, not out of anger or bitterness, but out of love. Love for my daughter. I kept hoping that Callie would find the care and support she deserved, though I wasn't the one to give it. Sometimes, I thought about reaching out to social services again or asking the school to keep an eye on her. But I also knew I couldn't force a broken family to heal overnight. That was a journey only they could take. I decided to focus on what I could control, which was being the best mom to Ella. And in doing that, I found my own healing too. I stopped feeling guilty for setting boundaries and pressured by others who didn't understand my situation. Because I realized that being a good mother doesn't mean saying yes to everyone. It means saying yes to what's best for your child. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever faced a difficult family situation or struggled with setting boundaries, you're not alone. I hope sharing my experience can help someone out there feel a little less lost or unsure. If you want to share your own story or thoughts, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you and support each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more real stories about family, love, and tough choices. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you in the next video.